The smell of rebellion and anarchy still lingered in the air in the late 80s. Joey and Maggie, two punk rockers with colorful hair, patched leather jackets and combat boots, strolled through the hallways of their high school. They were known troublemakers, always pushing the boundaries and thumbing their noses at authority. "Can you believe they're making us sit through another boring assembly?" Maggie muttered, rolling her eyes as they entered the auditorium. Joey smirked, adjusting the spiked collar around his neck. "Yeah, like we're gonna listen to Principal Dixon drone on about student responsibility and all that crap." As Principal Dixon began his monologue about the importance of following rules, Joey leaned over to Maggie, whispering, "Want to ditch this joint and hit up the abandoned warehouse instead?" She grinned, nodding eagerly. "Hell yeah, let's blow this popsicle stand." They slipped out of the auditorium, sneaking past the janitor's closet and out into the back parking lot. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the empty schoolyard. "Race you to the warehouse!" Joey called, breaking into a run. Maggie laughed, her combat boots pounding against the pavement as she chased after him. They reached the warehouse, a graffiti-covered monolith looming in the fading light. Inside, the air was thick with the smell of stale beer and cigarette smoke. They made themselves at home, sprawled out on a pile of old mattresses in the corner. As they cracked open a couple of beers they had stashed away and turned up the volume on their portable cassette player, they were blissfully unaware of the chaos unfolding outside. A distant scream pierced the night, followed by the sound of breaking glass. They exchanged a confused glance, the hairs on the back of their necks standing on end. "What the hell was that?" she whispered, her voice trembling. Joey shrugged, straining to listen over the blaring music. "Probably just some idiot smashing bottles or something. Don't worry about it." But the sense of unease lingered, growing stronger with each passing minute. The music suddenly cut out, replaced by a frantic voice crackling through the static. "This is an emergency broadcast," the voice said, urgent and panicked. "Stay indoors and lock all doors and windows. I repeat, stay indoors and lock all doors and windows. Do not approach anyone exhibiting signs of aggression. I repeat." Before the message could finish, the power went out, plunging the warehouse into darkness. They scrambled to their feet, their hearts pounding in their chests. They fumbled for their flashlights, casting wild beams of light around the room. "What the hell is happening?" she gasped, her voice shaking with fear. Before he could respond, the door burst open with a deafening crash. A figure stumbled into the room, its eyes vacant and its clothes torn to shreds. His stomach churned as he realized what he was looking at. "Oh shit. Maggie, it's a..." But before he could finish his sentence, the figure lunged at them, its teeth gnashing and its hands reaching out for their throats. Adrenaline surged through his veins as he grappled with the creature, its foul breath hot against his face. He could feel its strength, unnatural and inhuman, as it fought against him with savage ferocity. "Get off me, you undead freak!" he shouted, struggling to push it away. Maggie sprang into action, grabbing a broken piece of wood from the floor and swinging it like a club. The makeshift weapon connected with a sickening thud, sending the creature reeling backward. But more were pouring in through the open doorway, their moans echoing through the darkness. They were outnumbered, trapped in a sea of rotting flesh and snapping jaws. "We need to get out of here!" she yelled, her voice barely audible over the chaos. Joey nodded, his mind racing as he searched for an escape route. He spotted a narrow staircase leading up to a catwalk overhead, a faint glimmer of moonlight shining through a cracked window. "Up there!" he shouted, pointing toward the stairs. "We can make a break for it through the window." They fought their way through the horde, their weapons clutched tightly in their hands. With every step, the stench grew stronger, a sickening cocktail of decay and death. But just as they reached the staircase, disaster struck. Maggie stumbled, her foot catching on a piece of debris. She fell to the ground with a cry of pain, her flashlight rolling out of reach. "Maggie, no!" Joey shouted, reaching out to help her. But it was too late. The creatures were upon her, their clammy hands clawing at her flesh. He could only watch in horror as she was dragged away, her screams fading into the darkness. Alone and surrounded, he knew he had to keep moving. With tears streaming down his face, he climbed the stairs, his heart heavy with grief and guilt. He emerged onto the catwalk, the moonlight casting eerie shadows across the empty warehouse floor below. The silence was deafening, broken only by the distant moans of the undead. He staggered toward the window, his mind numb with shock. He could see the city skyline in the distance, a flickering beacon of hope in the darkness. But as he reached the window, he froze in horror. The streets below were overrun with zombies, their ranks stretching as far as the eye could see. There was no escape, no way out of this nightmare. He sank to his knees, his spirit broken, and his will to live drained away. He had lost everything: his friend, his freedom, his future. And now, he was alone in a world gone mad, surrounded by death and despair. As the first rays of dawn crept over the horizon, Joey closed his eyes and whispered a final prayer. God help us all.